You've got the bids. I just wanted to update the village tomorrow. Is that okay?
No, you don't. Yeah.
Prioritize national ties.
Thank you.
A woman from the Farm Bureau. And you pay $600 for the soil. She wants to come to one of the ones coming up. She came to our meeting. Super nice, like young, wants to be more involved and wants to teach people what Farm Bureau does. Really sharp.
They want to give some.
I don't know if they want to give any more. We'll see.
Well, I brought the bill to the community foundation to pay. And we'll get probably like $55 back because it included taxes.
It'll get over and over.
Definitely be a target debt.
Are you getting reimbursed?
Foundation won't pay. $400 is left towards transportation. That's not, it's a service, so that's not taxable.
Good morning and welcome to this meeting for the Berry County Board of Commissioners for March 12th, 2024. Please stand for our invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Heavenly Father, thank you for another beautiful day in Berry County. Thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed on all of us. We appreciate the opportunity to serve you and serve our community. Bless us, guide us, and all those who work alongside us. Grant us the wisdom and the patience to do what is right for our community and all of our constituents. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. For purposes of attendance, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Doster. Present. Carlton.
Here.
Getty. Here. Smelker.
Here.
Hatfield.
Here.
Campbell.
Here.
Tennyson.
Here.
Jackson.
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Reports from state and county officials. Are there any state and county officials who would like to give the board an update this morning? Hey, look at that.
Look at that outfit.
How did they spell Barry? Let's see it. All right, look at that. Who is that?
We don't have everybody dressed up, but I thought I'd share it with you today. We had to send some uniforms back because fitting problems and stuff like that. So then last Thursday, there's a link between us and 911 that went down for about 13 hours, something like that. Is about right? I'm looking at IT. From about 4 in the morning till about 5:30 in the evening. And we're still having a little bit of problems with it, so I didn't get the law enforcement stats today. I just got corrections. Also, I think you all got a text from me not too long ago. Yeah, all right. Just want to make sure you guys got it. The corrections staff has booked and processed 95 persons into the county jail for the month of February. And additionally released 90 persons back in the community. The daily average inmate population, was 55 persons. Staff has transported 47 persons to and from various locations to include court, medical facilities, and other counties. In addition, we fingerprinted 101 persons at the front counter. Kitchen staff reported 4,417 meals at a cost of $2.73 a meal. And I'm going to see if we can go back 10 years on one of the reports coming up here, see how that looks. Anyways, bookings, we had 95 in 2024. 2019, we had 259. Releases, we had 90, and then 2019, we had 198. Daily average population is 55, 2019 was 72. Transports 47 compared to 77 in 2019. Fingerprints 101 compared to 72. Meals served 4,417 compared to 6,553 at $1.58 a meal. Plumbing repairs this last month was 3,846. HVAC repairs was $12,581.88. So, a reference to the text, wait, there's more. All right, thank you.
When are we going to hear more? Is that a media thing, or is that are you releasing something?
It's a security thing.
Okay, thanks. Additional reports from state and county officers. Good morning.
Morning, Scott Korpak. I'm the director for District 7 for Michigan State University Extension, which is Allegan, Berry, Kent, and Ottawa counties. A little bit, I'm kind of gotten in the way of myself. I just have 2 quick things to share, but I had 10 copies, and I will bring more back, but I'm just going to deliver the 3 that I have right now.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll make sure everyone gets a hard copy of that. There's 2 quick things. First is Kai Gritter, who's one of our educators, and I really appreciate Commissioner Tunison joining the advisory committee last week. It was a really good meeting, and Kai was able to present. We have veterans that have food insecurity, and one of the things that Extension is doing is trying to get the word out to our veterans that this is something that they've earned, and if there is food insecurity, that there's help for them. So you'll see that there's some information there. We're trying to spread that. I'll have hard copies and some pamphlets for you as well. Second thing is, and this took me a little bit of arm wrangling, but Laura Anderson is one of your Hastings own. And she is a health nutrition educator at MSU Extension. And I found out that she works with Tammy Jackson, who's your head cook at the jail. And she serves as your dietitian. And I think that's one of those things that's just really important to recognize. And Laura likes to be behind the scenes, and so she wasn't very happy about me coming to share that. But I think that you need to know that because it's not something that's a part of her job description. There's a cost to it, but she saw the need. And sometimes we think about Michigan State. Michigan State's out there, and Extension is here. And Extension is those folks who are, like Laura, Hastings own, and have been here a resident and cares very much about this community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Scott? Okay, thank you. It's good to see you. Additional reports from state and county officers or officials?
Hi, Mark Malcolm. Good morning. I don't know if I should talk now or not, but you've got stuff on the agenda for the airport. If you'd like me to talk now, I will, or I can wait till you get to that point.
We'll have you address that during that agenda item, please.
very good.
That'd be awesome. Thank you. Okay, limited public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Of course, you know me, always got something to say. Eldon Schellenberger, Hastings. I'd like to see this board adopt some rules and regulations as far as how county commissioners, if they don't attend the meetings, they don't get paid. I know our township just recently passed rules and regulation, Carlton Township, that if you don't show up to the meeting, you don't get paid. Unless there's has to be a really good, valid reason. But in responsibilities and duties to your job, you should have to show up. That's what the constituents elected you for, is to take and be here to represent them. And if you can't, and then you start dictating, well, I can't make this meeting, or I can't make that meeting. Well, if you knew you couldn't make that meeting, or do your job as a commissioner, don't run for it. Go do something else. Don't think you're going to get money for nothing, for not for showing up. And I mean, that's a disservice to your constituents that elected you to put you in that position. So I would like to see this board adopt some policies. If you're not here, you don't get paid. And it's no more than right. I mean, you can't expect money for free. And that's what it appears to me. It also appears to me the person who takes and don't show up, other than for a good reason, you miss a month, then that should be a month worth of wages that should be docked from your pay. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Good morning, Joe Levitz in Rutland Township. I'd like to echo some of what Eldon said, because the last time we saw this commissioner over here was on January 23rd. That was 7 weeks ago. Apparently, Mr. Fred Jacobs was right in his editorial when he said we didn't need that extra commissioner district after all, because things have been moving just fine. And I find it ironic that this particular commissioner as well had all of the attendance requirements struck for committees before he decided to go on his month-long vacation. 7 weeks is a long time for your district to be not represented here at the commission. With that said, I don't like to be the person that always presents problems without solutions. I think perhaps this would be a good thing if there was an appetite to eliminate blue zones, to replace it with something else. There's someone who has been working with kids in our district or in our county for quite some time, trying to get them involved in agriculture and so forth. And she's also working on putting together a program which you can buy direct from farms here in Berry County, whether that's produce or meat or eggs or whatever have you. Her name's Katie Christie. She's been working with the FFA. I would encourage the county to see what they could do to work with her on that. You know, supporting our farm seems like a much better idea to me than saying we need to quit buying meat. Additionally, in your presentation, and perhaps some people might just think that this is a semantics game, but I think it's more than that. You have a slide that mentions racial equity. And I take issue with that because equity assigns value. And what are we assigning value to? A race. And to me, I think that we could come up with a better word to replace that, maybe equality or something along those lines. To borrow from MLK, we should be judging people by their character value, not their racial value. And I understand that there's a big movement behind using that word equity, but the way that I see it, it's inverted racism. We should not, which is still racism, we should not be assigning value to someone because of race. We should be assigning value to someone because of who they are, what they bring to the table, and ultimately their character. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Additional public comment? Hearing none, we will move ahead with our agenda. Approval of written agenda. At this time, any member of the board may ask for an item to be removed from the consent agenda and placed under items for consideration. Hearing no such request, does any commissioner wish to change the agenda additionally? Hearing no such request, the agenda is approved as written. Various correspondence. Does any commissioner have a correspondence they'd like to share with the board? Okay, consent agenda. Commissioner Tunison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Approval of February 27, 2024 Board of Commissioner meeting minutes.
Support. Motion by Tunison, support by Smelker for all items listed on the consent agenda. Discussion is not allowed and a roll call vote is required. All those in favor vote aye, opposed vote nay. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Foster.
Aye.
Carlton.
Aye.
Getty,
Aye.
Smelker. Hatfield.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Tunison.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye. The consent agenda is approved. Presentations. This morning, we have Liz Lentz, coordinator from Berry County Substance Abuse Task Force with us this morning, if I could talk. And she has a guest.
I do. Good morning. Good morning. Liz Lenz, Coordinator, Berry County Substance Abuse Task Force, and I brought with me my friend Amy Delinky, Technical Advisor with Michigan Association of Counties, with technical assistance with the opioid settlement funds for the state of Michigan through the Michigan Association of Counties. Did I say that right? Okay, wonderful. Thank you for letting us come before you today with some information and an update about opioid settlement funds right here in Berry County. Recently, as you know, there's been some activity happening in the last year or so regarding receipt of funds from some of the settlement and the distributors. And so Amy's here to answer any questions about that. If we have specific questions, let me just take this minute to say that I'm only as good as the people I work with. So I'm really pleased to have a relationship with Amy, with Michael, with all of you, with all of my partners throughout the community. We can't do any of this work alone. We have to work together. And these funds belong to the folks in Berry County. Specifically, these funds the formula was based at a point in time based on how many people had passed or suffered a fatal overdose because of opioids, how many prescriptions were written at that point in time for opioids to Berry County residents. And then what's the third factor? I forgot. Looking at non-fatal overdoses. I also believe that the snapshot took a look at treatment admissions in Berry County for Berry County residents at that time. I think so. Yeah. Well, so that's the formula behind all of this. This is months and months and years of confusion and waiting, and I wanted to give you a little bit of an update. So you have a presentation in front of you, and basically, to help us understand these funds, the state of Michigan, as well, is this from the state of Michigan or is this from the actual settlement itself? This is from the settlement itself. So you can see that core strategies were basically set aside and defined to make this the best use for across all parts of the state of Michigan. So naloxone distribution, medication-assisted treatment, which you might be familiar with. They did talk about certain populations in terms of addressing the needs of pregnant and postpartum women, expanding the treatment of NAS, which has to do with those babies that are born with effects of opioid exposure, recovery supports, treatment for incarcerated people, prevention programs, expanding harm reduction programs, and evidence-based data collection and research. And then if you move over, just you don't have to go back, Leslie, just the approved uses fall into a few categories of treatment, prevention, and other strategies. And treatment can be to support people in, obviously, treatment and recovery, which you're used to hearing about from me, the connection to care and recovery supports, and addressing the needs of special populations, those that are criminally justice involved, and those who may be pregnant or parenting. Prevention, again, is got quite a few areas where these funds can be allocated in terms of preventing misuse, preventing overdoses, preventing overdose fatalities, in harm reduction strategies, as well as to provide information about safe prescribing practices to both the consumer and the prescribers. And other strategies that are in place are to support first responders, to plan, to coordinate, to provide training, and then to do any research or data collection. I'm going to let Amy talk a little bit about the breakdown just for a second. Are you okay with that? Okay.
Good morning. Thanks for allowing me to be here with you. So what we're expecting to see across the state of Michigan is about $1.6 billion coming into the state. That is a low estimate, as there are many settlements that we do not have information on, but we know are in the works. Things like Purdue, which I'm sure you're familiar with. The majority of settlements have a 50-50 split meaning 50% of the funds goes directly to the state, and 50% of the funds will go to townships, cities, and counties. And legally, they're referred to as the subdivisions. And so there'll be a distribution among all of those local governments. Those dollars do not flow through the state. They go directly from the companies that are settling into an escrow account housed with Brown Greer, the national administrator, and then directly distributed to the county. So on the slide, you'll see that there are the number of different companies that these settlements are taking place with. I will note that there are different requirements and different allowable uses, reporting requirements, as well as distribution pathways for McKinsey, Mallinckrodt, Publicis Health, and Meyer. So those ones are a bit different than the rest, but the majority have that 50-50 split, and that's where the majority of county funds will come from.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so if we take a look at the next piece in the presentation, and these numbers are kind of a soft target, if we could say. It looks like we will receive about 1.4 and some million over the next 17 years. We've received, it's actually probably between 16 and 17 now. We've received some payments. And I'm going to let Amy talk a little bit about this structure. Do you mind saying about how some of them can come in?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
So with the settlements, while we all function on either a calendar year or a fiscal year, these companies are not necessarily working that way. So they're able to make payments when it works for them. Many of these companies, it's based on their kind of profits as they move through this process. And so they're able to make payments at different times. Typically, those payments you'll see in the summer, but these companies can front load payments. You should have 5 payments from one company in your account and 3 payments from another. And that's just for those first 2 years, so there's 5 years of payments and 3 years of payments. And then they also can skip payments. They just cannot skip consecutive years. And the dollar amount that comes in when they do pay, it's not a set amount. So those dollar amounts will change regularly. So in order to ensure that those dollars are made available for 18 years or 16 years from this point forward, really thinking about sustainability, what is an average annual amount that the county can be comfortable with, and you can expect additional funds beyond what you're seeing on the screen for those additional settlements, Purdue, Endo, Kroger, potentially Rite Aid.
Okay. Any questions about that for Amy? You can
I
tell.
got a question.
Yeah.
Why are these companies being held responsible versus the doctors or whoever wrote the prescriptions?
Well, I think it has to come down, and Amy can step in here too, but it comes down to marketing and misinformation and the fact that they were, you have a better answer? Go ahead.
So the companies are, so they're for the alleged harms, legally referred to as the alleged harms related to the opioid crisis. But many physicians were misinformed by those companies, the marketing practices that were used, as well as the information that was provided. And so that's where we'll see a lot of information about what's going on. And then on the pharmacy side, there are a set of pharmacy settlements. It's really about ignoring those red flags that are coming up. So a condition of many of these settlements is a MAPS program in the state for all states that are settling. So a monitoring system for prescriptions, and then specific actions to be taken if it's identified that someone may be seeking additional medications from elsewhere. So and then we have some companies in there that were not necessarily doing the direct marketing, but had some other kind of marketing components. So it's a little different with each, but in general, just about misinformation that was shared, misinforming physicians, as well as marketing and distribution.
Well, I think the doctors ought to be held accountable myself. They're the ones that, yeah, okay, they were getting a lot of kickbacks from this, according to what I've ever looked at this. They were taking on trips, there were all kinds of crap, but they were, and they should have seen the red flags themselves, don't you think, as physicians?
Well, Bob, the bottom line is that this money is not going to bring back people who passed due to overdose fatalities. It's not going to change the fact that somebody went to the doctor that they trusted and was given a medication that the doctor said wasn't habit forming, that was going to be the next aspirin, it was going to solve all the problems. You know, it's different times, different days. I think we can all remember times when we've been told that a medicine is going to do wonderful things and not have any side effects. And here we are 20, 25, 30 years later, where the companies that have produced these medications and the channels that they get to us, this is in response to the harm that it did to human life. And I share some of your thoughts and concerns. And you know me, the bottom line is trying to allocate these funds in the best way that represents everybody in this room and all the people we love, because there's 60-some other thousand people in Berry County right now, and many of them have experienced a loss or a medical mishap or something to do at the hands of medications that we were given wrong information about. But I thank you, Bob. I think you're part of what makes Berry County is that this isn't a simple fix. It wasn't just one thing.
Yeah.
Right? And I appreciate your comments. I'm so glad to have Amy here to answer these questions. I do want to take a look at the guiding principles that Johns Hopkins School of Public Health has put forward as a guidance document. And Joel, you brought up, if we can go to the next slide there, please, Leslie, I appreciate your help very, very much today. These are the 5 guiding principles that have been put together by Johns Hopkins, and these are nationwide. So as you can imagine, none of this is done without data. And so if we look at Berry County data, that's going to be very different, Joel, than national data, obviously. There are some studies that do show that certain racial groups have been impacted significantly more by the opioid crisis. What we will say here in Berry County is we're going to focus on equity, and we are going to follow these spending principles to the best of our ability in Berry County. I give you my word on that. I gave you all the word on that when we made this decision last November 2022, that these dollars belong to Berry County, and we're going to do the best that we can in the way that we can with the limited amount of funds that we get to make sure that they help people, and they help people that have been impacted or they prevent future impacts. So these are, if you can go to the Johns Hopkins site, you can go to the Michigan Association of Counties opioid. It's a settlement toolkit that Amy has done a tremendous job, and we've provided that information for you. So if we talk a little bit about progress at this point, because I want to be mindful of time, you can kind of see the timeline there in front of you. In 2022, we presented some information to you from a needs assessment that we conducted, so we were a little bit ahead of the game. We were already using our contracted evaluator to do some needs assessment, to talk to people in all the different segments that were affected by this, including people with lived experience, people in recovery, people in specialty courts. So we really already knew the Johns Hopkins principles were in place, and we already did some opioid settlement fund needs assessment. You can find that on the website, and I'm going to share that with you here shortly. We then came to you with all this information in November of 2022, and you agreed that we could help as a substance abuse task force. We could be that entity that would be the stewards of these funds. And I'm happy to say that because of some federal grants that we have, we don't need to use any of these funds at this point to help us do this work. So that is very, very good news. We've been stewards of other public funds and applied for many grants, and so these funds at this point in time, as of today, we don't need any oversight funds. That may change in the future, right? We don't know. We have coordinated with Amy. That has been a huge information highway for me, just to see all the things that are happening, starting to talk to more and more counties across the state and what they're doing as well. Everybody's at different stages and places. We also are entering into a community substance needs assessment that will be conducted by MSU, and this is part of the state opioid settlement funds through MDHHS, and that should start in spring of 2024. And that takes a look at a couple different areas, and it will be heavily concentrated on people with lived experience and people whose loved ones have lived experience, because they're the people that have been impacted. We also have formed an opioid fatality review team, and that's, I think we're the 13th team in the state of Michigan, 13th county, and that helps us learn. We can apply some of the principles on where the gaps were, or maybe develop some ideas moving forward of how we can provide better services at those critical moments. And then the opioid settlement funds webpage, we've housed that on the Substance Abuse Task Force website, and I'll provide that link for you. And I think that's a great place. It's transparent. It's one of those tenets of Johns Hopkins that we tell you what's happening, and so we are. That's why we're here today, is to give a report. And then we have been expanding our access to naloxone and other harm reduction, and of course promoting recovery and treatment and whatever people are ready to receive. So what's next? Right there you have the website that you can click on. We'll be promoting this webpage. We're starting with you today. You're going to start to see this everywhere. Hey, when we're moving. It's not going to be a cheetah's pace, nor do you want it to be, right? We're trying to be faster than snail and tortoise, but we want to be really careful with how we spend these dollars. It's not a lot of money right now. And it can be very easy to enter into some quick decisions just to look like we're spending that money. And I don't think any of us want to do that. We want to do what is sound, what the data says we need. So we're going to wait for those needs assessments results to come in and see if they match the needs assessment that we did in 2022, and then we'll have a pretty good idea. And then we will report those findings of the needs assessment. We will identify the needs, and we will develop an opioid settlement funds request process, and we will put it out there for people to say, hey, what can we do with these funds, and does it meet our criteria? And then we'll report annually and more. So anytime you want us to come and talk to you, you know that I will be here. Again, one of those tenets is transparency. So I like to let people know where you can find Narcan access in the county. You can see some mapping here. We have more sites in doctors' offices or different locations, but Narcan access has expanded greatly. Last year alone, in 2023, we distributed more than 1,000 kits, and I'm happy to say that we find the best partnerships wherever we can go. I know Nashville has 3 spots where Narcan's available. Hastings has 8, Dalton has 3, and we are every day taking kits to more and more people. We should have a vending machine in the lobby of Berry County Community Mental Health. Hopefully this month. We're going to knock on wood. The shipment's a little bit delayed. Our vending machine will not only contain the kits, but other comfort items, such as if we'd had a cold winter, we had thought about putting hats and mittens. We haven't had a cold winter. We'll see what spring brings, so we can all knock on wood for that, right? Does anyone have any questions for myself or Amy? I want to say thank you. I can't do my job without everybody in this room and everybody's feedback. So I do hope when the needs assessment starts and you are approached that you will provide feedback and help us move forward. So any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of all, something I've learned, any drug that has an effect has a side effect, and that's a basic principle of any drug. Secondly, were we on board with the large lawsuit that the county's got on with the Bernstein family? Were we part of a class action suit? Were we part of that group?
I'm not familiar with the family.
Or were we part of the class action suit?
We were. The state settlement, effectively. There were 2 courses that you could go down, and Amy, one is that you could participate in the settlement that the state was involved in, that class action, or you could go on your own. And early on, we said, no, we're not going to. There might have been a county or 2 that chose to negotiate their own settlement.
Okay.
But that was, and I do believe that early on, I'm dating myself, I apologize, that it was the Bernstein family. There were some other legal firms that were involved in this, that came into that settlement. So we were part of the larger settlement that most counties, if you may, participated in, that tied in with the state's lawsuits.
About 5 years ago, I was on the elevator going to the Ionia County Commissioners meeting, and on the elevator was Mark Bernstein, that you see in the commercials, because Sam's gotten too old to be on them now. And he was describing this whole thing to me, so it's interesting to see it come to fruition. Is there any, I know there's a huge emotional toll. Our neighbor lost his son due to an overdose, and it was absolutely devastating. But has there been any way to quantify what it's cost this county?
Oh, that's a good question, Dr. Colton, and it is a data challenge that I would like to take on and report back to you. So do you happen to know an answer, Amy? So I think I understood. You would like to know we'd like to see a breakdown of what this opioid crisis has cost Berry County.
Everything from treatment to even mortician, or not mortician services, our doctor that declares people dead.
Medical examiner
services and such like that. Because I remember Mark Bernstein discussing this whole range of damages to counties that they're having to absorb.
Yes.
And I didn't know if, it's nice to get, 1.6 million back, but what did this cost us?
So I will accept your challenge that I think you have laid down in front of me and see what we can do, but can you give me a couple months?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to have to go sit down, and somebody's going to have to write that down. I might have to contact you to get the exact framework of what you want to know, but we'll see what we can do. Okay?
Thank you.
That's a great question. Any other questions for myself or Amy?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mark.
Well, staying in that same vein, if we can quantify the costs that we've already occurred, why can't we reimburse ourselves for that?
Well, I don't know if I can even answer that one, Mark. That one maybe is, I don't know that,
I mean, you understand what I'm saying. Instead of figuring out the future prevention and so forth and having, a great deal of bureaucracy in order to do that, we've already incurred a lot of this cost.
right.
And that we've taken out of our county budget or the mental health budget, and why can't we simply reimburse ourselves for the costs that we've already accrued?
So there is a component where you can actually reimburse yourselves for costs that have already taken place if they were specific to opioid remediation. So the legal definition of opioid remediation and alignment with Exhibit E, the list of allowable uses. And so right now, with the majority of the settlements, the ones that this county has, 85% of those funds has to be used in alignment with the definition of opioid remediation and Exhibit E. 70% of that has to be used for future opioid remediation, meaning activities that have not yet taken place. So you do have a 15% area for reimbursement, and then you do have an additional 15% that is unrestricted. What some counties are doing is committing 100% of their funds to future opioid remediation. So other counties are taking a different approach, but legally you're only required 85% of those funds for opioid remediation, with 15 of that 85% allowing for reimbursement.
Okay, so so with this 15 to 30% that we could claim as reimbursement, we could pick one thing in particular in order to put that into. We don't have to spread it among all these options of treatment and so forth. Like for example, the treatment for incarcerated persons. couldn't we focus that money toward the infrastructure and personnel at the jail as an allowable expense?
You can. I think what's really key with these dollars is that they're really intended to support those most profoundly impacted. So treatment in a jail would be a great option for people that are specifically impacted by this. And so I think also it's about figuring out if the priority is to address, reducing future overdose, or if it's about just focusing on one population. And that may be priority for year 1, but thinking long-term, what is priority for year 2, what is priority for year 5? The drug overdose environment and landscape is constantly changing. So what we see today will not be the case in 2 years, 5 years, 18 years. So thinking long-term about what are all of those activities that need to get in place. What are the people with lived experience, those people that are currently using drugs, those people that are in recovery from a substance use disorder, what are they seeing as those big gaps and needs? And then, of course, that there's other considerations with jail treatment as well, like the potential for lawsuits against the county if those services are not provided.
And forgive me for not knowing this, but who makes the decision of how this is split?
In terms of, so at the end of the day, this board makes the decision on where those dollars go, but what's most critical is that interpretation of Exhibit E and interpretation of opioid remediation, the legal definition, has to be determined by Corporation Counsel. So what's allowable in this county may not be allowable in the county next door, may not be allowable in a city that's in the county that's receiving funds. So the attorneys have to be able to interpret that, those definitions and those documents provided. And so we'll see different allowable uses across the state.
Okay, so can you give me like a brief description of what the task force purpose is?
Sure. So we are pretty good data collectors. We're pretty good needs assessment conductors, and we get to collect thoughts and ideas that aren't just from one body. So we're going to be bringing needs assessment data from different sources to say this is what this population of people said was the biggest need, or this is what people said that they'd like to see. And that's about being stewards of those dollars, correct, right? So we will only be stewards of those dollars, and we will help to hit those tenets, the prevention. We do have funds in Berry County. We're resource rich, right? We have specialty courts that receive funding. We have mental health services. We have lots of programs through SWIMBA, Southwest Michigan Behavioral Health. So we have access to a lot of funds. So the idea is not to supplant, but to instead enhance or create things that are not there, that people are saying are a gap. To help. For example, Mark, and I certainly know this is taking a lot of time, and I want to be mindful of that, but I love your questions. So in 2022, there is no sober housing. There is no transitional housing in Berry County. Well, the amount of money that we thought we were going to get when this originally came out was around $30,000 to $38,000 a year. So that you can see how that's changed. As more settlements have processed, the amounts are increasing. We're not going to get all that money at once. And even if we did, $1.48 million isn't going to put in sober housing in perpetuity or sustainability. So we have to think about what can we best do with these dollars and how can we do it to benefit the most amount of people. So if we took, let's say we got $100,000 and we took it out and we put people into safe housing, that money would go very, very quickly, and it might only help 2 to 6 people, right? So we also need to take a look at having a panel or a group that is going to make those decisions in the best interest of how those funds are spent.
Okay. But the task force, it's advisory, right? It doesn't actually make the decisions, or does it?
Based on the decision that this board made in November of 2022,
That was prior to me, so I don't know what that is.
That would be that we will serve as oversight. The Substance Abuse Task Force will take that, with your help, we will take that work and make it happen.
Okay, so you do make the allocations then of how the money is spent?
Eventually we will, but nothing will be done without the consent of the
And currently
county.
you're receiving monies, but that has
No.
not been spent?
We are not.
You're
The
not
money is
receiving-
sitting in Berry County, in Berry County's accounts. It's sitting here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the county
The
administers.
county has
Yep,
received
yep,
it, but
yep.
you have not.
No,
Okay.
we will not benefit from those dollars without, like I said, when we originally came forward, we said, well, we might need 10% for oversight. We might use, if we're going to get $36,000, we might use $3,600 or $4,500 to help us do that work, which is pretty minimal, 10 to 15%. But at this point in time, we just received a very large federal grant called Partnership for Success, and so we will use those funds to help get to the point where we make some decisions about how to spend these funds.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Getty?
So you hit on, you probably anticipated what my comments were going to be, because I think transitional housing is an incredible need in our community.
Right.
And we've talked privately about it. I think we've talked in a commissioner meeting about it.
Sure.
And now that we see that there is, substantially more money coming down the pike, and granted, it's coming unpredictably and
Yes.
in small amounts and large amounts, is that on your list of what you're considering is providing some kind of transitional housing? Yes, 1.4 is not enough, but we could leverage that with local support and other
Sure.
funding opportunities.
Can I respond, or you respond? You want to respond first? Go ahead.
So I think really everything is on the table. I think we have the one needs assessment that's already been completed, but the MSU needs assessment is a needs assessment that 25% of the counties are engaged in. And what that report from MSU looks like, it highlights some priorities, common themes from the qualitative and the quantitative data. And it may say things like transitional housing or recovery housing. And then I think those items would then be, we haven't discussed pathways, but in the process for seeking those funds, saying this is a priority, what are the applications from the community around that topic, would be how I would anticipate another county doing it, and potentially how this county may.
Yeah, we're really kind of excited to see what this MSU needs assessment says. These are, highly trained folks from Michigan State that are been contracted by the state of Michigan to do this. I just attended a workshop last Friday that Amy hosts on a Friday during lunch hour, and Kalamazoo County shared about their needs assessment experience and how they gathered the information, who they gathered it from, and then how they're going to be putting it into the vehicles driving the process going forward. And we have to start somewhere. So I would anticipate that the housing issue is not going to be changed. I would anticipate that there's going to be, I don't want to say what I think because I don't get to make these decisions, right? I will only be part of this process. We have to form that committee and we have to form that process so that it's fair and equitable and really reflects the nature of the guiding tenets that Johns Hopkins and Exhibit E. And, Amy, through her work, Amy's phenomenal. If you haven't been to that opioid settlement toolkit page, I've got it in the resources, or at least I can provide it. I don't know if I did provide it. I apologize.
Well, I'm incredibly thankful that you're working on this, and Amy sounds like she's doing tremendous work, too. Yeah. I'm just really interested in it, choosing something that's going to be
Sure.
long-lasting and impactful for our county, and
Sure.
like Commissioner Doster mentioned, not dusting it around.
No.
And not having that, true impact that we can point to in the end.
Well, and once these funds are spent, they're spent, right? We can't invest them and grow them. We need to spend them. They're settlement funds. I appreciate that you've been listening to me and Amy for such a long time. I just want to say this. In 34 years of this work, I meet people in all stages, places, spots, wherever they are. And people have all sorts of thoughts about substance use and dependency and recovery. And these dollars are a chance for some people to see a recovery that they haven't seen yet. And prevention is part of that. Prevention is part of the process. We prevent by wearing seat belts and bike helmets. We prevent by not taking opioids in the first place. We prevent, when somebody is in recovery, we help prevent relapse for them. We help prevent overdose by providing naloxone. We help prevent trauma by supporting people when they're struggling. And I just want to thank you for taking this journey with me. Are there any more questions?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Well, thanks for your dedication, Liz. I really appreciate you.
I can say the same of all of you.
And what you do for Berry County. You say you distributed over 1,000 Narcans. Do you have any idea in a year how many are used? Way over 1,000?
I wish I did. The reports back to me on whether they've used them is very small. Some people
Okay.
will reach out to me. Anecdotally, I've heard about 3 or 4. They're usually pretty private situations where somebody will tell me, I had to use that kit, can I get another one?
Oh, gee.
If they feel comfortable telling me, it's usually a family member or a loved one, and they found them. But I don't ask for that information back. So I feel when people do tell me that that's a gift, that they trust me with that information, and we've kept that person alive for another day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and looking at this in the slide where we talked about the money, it said 725,000. You're saying it's going to be closer to 1.4 to 1.5 is what you're anticipating. So still over 18 years, you're talking about between $40,000 and $80,000 a year. That's kind of going to come in hit or miss.
Hit or miss.
We can't budget for any of that because we don't know what's coming
No.
to the bank account, so.
No. I
and
wish
when
it were
look at-
different. If it were a federal grant and you knew you were going to get
Yeah.
$180,000 a year, then you'd really know what to anticipate. But that's just not going to be what it is, Dave.
Yeah, and I look at the core strategies for utilization and the needs assessment and some of the stuff. There's a lot of needs and there's not a lot of money.
Right.
I mean, really, when we look at it, I think 40,000 a year doesn't begin to touch what we need to do just for even prevention or treatment for people who are struggling with it. So
Right.
it'll be interesting to see the MSU focus,
It
see
will.
what they come back on, and then try to laser that out, because I don't see that amount of money covering all the needs, but it's something, it's a start, and
It is.
hopefully we can use your resources and some of the additional grants that you've got access to
Absolutely.
spread this out a little bit,
So I just saw an article, I've used this phrase often, you may even have heard it from me, about braiding resources. So I just saw an article yesterday. The federal government is really interested in this concept of, one grant or one funding source is working with the others to really grow that stronger braided resource or rope. And I do think that that's what we're looking at. We have to remember, these opioid settlement funds are not the only monies that are designated to help in these situations, but we do need to partner across to all the different, let's just say, we need to play in the sandbox together with these dollars. And the bottom line is that, and probably forgot to mention it, or I did, the purpose of these dollars is really about saving lives. That's it, first and foremost. And so that's gonna drive our process. And I will be really honest with you, I hate going slow, because what happens if a person dies?
Yep.
And we've been sitting on this.
We had one question from Eldon in our
Sure, Eldon, good morning.
Good morning. I know you're working on the opioid situation.
Sure.
What are you guys doing about the problems with fentanyl? Because I know now from people that I know, they've been in surgery and different things, and now the medical profession is using fentanyl or in place of morphine or stuff like that. So we're back at another crisis, I would say, because a lot of the people that usually get that wind up being addicted to the fentanyl, because I know a particular person who's not addicted, but out of their head after they've had surgery or something, and the doctor gave them fentanyl, and they were totally out of their head from taking the fentanyl. So how are you going to address the fentanyl issue, because they are allowing the medical profession to use that in different circumstances? How do you keep the person, when they do that, from being addicted to it?
Well, again, this comes back to patient-doctor relationship. But let me say this, that these changes are not in a vacuum, that the medical profession is making prescribing changes. If anyone has had surgery recently, you're usually prescribed a very small amount of opioid painkillers, if any. The prescribing practices are changing. I am not a doctor and I don't play one on TV, so at least I made you laugh. Certain people of certain age get that joke, okay? I think that that's part of this, and that's some of the things that the task force does in our other areas, Alvin, is we're out doing education with prescribers and MAPS, the Michigan prescribing system is one that the physicians and the prescribers use. I've seen with my own family and my own lived experience that the prescribing practices have greatly changed over the last 5-10 years, and even every year they're just a little bit more different. We're falling back onto non-opioid pain relievers and finding that they're a little times more effective. But when someone has a knee replacement or a shoulder surgery, of course they're going to need pain relief, right? So we are in all areas and all sectors. And so we are agents of change, and we only suggest to everybody what we can do to make this a better place for everybody. I don't know if I answered your question, Alvin, but fentanyl, there's two types of fentanyl. There's regular prescribed fentanyl that comes through legit channels, and then there would be illicit fentanyl, black market fentanyl, and it is present. Most of the opioids that are sold illicitly do contain fentanyl.
Because I know, like, there's two kinds of morphine too. I know they have a synthetic one and they have the other one.
Right.
But I'm just, about the fentanyl, because there's such a high addictive rate also to the fentanyl like there is opioids.
Yes.
So that's why I asked that question. Are you guys going to be working on that, addressing them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, we already are, and we're doing, we're busy. We probably have, you ever see a plate juggling? Yeah, I probably got about 27 plates and I'm juggling right now. Joel has a question, is it?
Yeah, and I want to be clear, when I gave my public comment earlier, it's not any way a jab against what you guys are
I didn't
doing.
take it that way, Joel.
Yeah, my thing is just with the word equity, we talk about stock equity options and we put value to the stock or equity in your house. It's the value that you, and I think that we're really walking on a fine line, and to be honest with you, I think it violates the Elliott Larson Act and so forth to assign equity to a race. Equality, I'm all behind that.
Sure.
Equity, I think that's the wrong word.
Well, you heard what, and I appreciate you, Joel. I appreciate you very much, and I appreciate that we're going to get busy on this, and we're going to do the best we can for those that need it the most. And I appreciate, in your own way, that's what you do too, right? So thank you, everybody. This has been a lot longer conversation than I thought. John, do you have a question?
I have no questions. I just want to make a statement that I think Berry County is very fortunate to have you and your staff working for us, and thank you.
Well, I will accept that on one condition, that you understand that it's not me. I represent all of you. Just like I brought Amy with me today, my staff, we represent all the people. We are the voice for the people who don't have the voice or are too afraid to come and talk or don't want to deal with the stigma, or, we're the people that, we're just the talk. I'm just the talker. I've been talking too much since 1968, and it's not going anywhere. But I want to thank you for trusting me, trusting my team, trusting the task force. I represent about 40 different agencies and individuals today, and there's always room for anybody at the table. So thank you.
Liz, we appreciate your time. Thank you, Amy.
Mr. Chair, can we take 5?
Sure. It's 9:57. We'll be back in 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, the Berry County Board of Commissioners meeting is called back to order. Public hearings, we have none. Items for consideration, Commissioner Getty.
Let me turn my microphone on. I move for approval of prepaid invoices in the amount of $3,077,309.89.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Getty, support by Hatfield for approval of prepaid invoices in the amount of $3,077,309.89. Discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Carlton.
Yes. Aye.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Hatfield.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Tunison.
Aye.
Doster.
Aye.
And Jackson.
Aye. The motion is approved.
I move for the approval of claims in the amount of $155,444.10.
Support.
Motion by Getty, support by Smelker for approval of claims in the amount of $155,444.10. Discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Getty.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Hatfield.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Tunison.
Aye.
Doster.
Aye.
Carlton.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye. The motion is approved.
I move for the approval of commissioner reimbursements, mileage in the amount of $222.44.
Is there support?
Support. You got it.
Support Campbell. Motion by Getty, support by Campbell for approval of commissioner reimbursement mileage in the amount of $222.44. Is there additional discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Smelker.
Aye.
Hatfield.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Tunison.
Aye.
Doster.
Aye.
Carlton.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye. The motion is approved.
I move for the approval of the attached memorandum of understanding with Eaton County and agreement for disposal of scrap tires and authorize the chairperson to sign.
Support. Hatfield.
Motion by Getty, support by Hatfield for approval of the attached memorandum of understanding with Eaton County and agreement for disposal of scrap tires and authorize the chairperson to sign it. Discussion. Rachel, any additional information you'd like to add to this? I think this is a renewal of an existing agreement that we've done for a few years in a row.
Yeah, it is. I just wanted to point out that the price has gone significantly up. So instead of, I think last year it was 6,000, this year it's 18,000 for the exact same amount of trailers, so.
Okay. Questions or additional discussion? Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Hatfield.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Tunison.
Aye.
Doster.
Aye.
Carlton.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye. The motion is approved.
I move for the approval to appoint Dr. Amanda Fisher Hubbard, MD, and effective on 4/1/2024, Dr. Christine James, DO, as Deputy Medical Examiners for Berry County.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Getty, support by Smelker for approval to appoint Dr. Amanda Fisher Hubbard, MD, effective on 4/1/24, and Dr. Christine James, DO, as Deputy Medical Examiner for Berry County. Discussion. Michael, these are standard appointments that we do for deputy
Medical examiners?
deputy medical examiners.
That's correct. I apologize, I was not at the committee of the whole, but from time to time, we have, the medical examiner's office has turnover in staff, and that is the case here, that we had some folks that were brought on board to the medical examiner's office and now need us to recognize them and appoint them as deputy medical examiners.
So just new deputy medical examiners.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, and we've done this in the past also, so.
That's correct.
Okay, additional discussion? Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Campbell.
Aye.
Tunison.
Aye.
Doster.
Aye.
Carlton.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Hatfield.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye. The motion is approved.
I move for the approval in accordance with the Airport Commission Joint Operating Agreement to spend $400,000 from the Airport Fund for required match funds for the state grant to construct a new terminal building as approved by the Airport Commission, with $200,000 to come from fund balance for the Airport Fund, and $100,000 to be paid from loan proceeds to the airport from the county, and $100,000 to be paid from loan proceeds to the airport from the city of Hastings, to be repaid over 10 years beginning in 2025, and approval to spend up to $10,000 for an independent feasibility study for the project with funds to be paid from the airport fund, and approval of the attached budget amendment.
Support.
Motion by Getty, support by Smelker for approval in accordance with the Airport Commission Joint Operating Agreement to spend $400,000 from the airport fund for required match funds for the state grant to construct a new terminal building as approved by the Airport Commission, with $200,000 to come from fund balance from the airport fund, $100,000 to be paid from the loan proceeds to the airport from the county, and $100,000 to be paid from loan proceeds to the airport from the city of Hastings, to be repaid over 10 years beginning in 2025, and approval to spend up to $10,000 for an independent feasibility study for the project with funds to be paid for the airport fund, and approval of the attached budget amendment. Discussion. Commissioner Smelker, you want to lead on this?
Bring Mark up and answer some questions, but go ahead, will you, Mark, on the total amount of this grant?
The grant, well, actually, this started about 3.5 years ago. We missed the first two grants. It's a BIL grant from the government, and all it does is terminal buildings across the USA. First 2 years, general aviation pretty much got zero, the bigger airports, Grand Rapids, and something like that. The last one was going to be their last one, so the board elected to do a feasibility study for the airport terminal last year, and we had to do that in order to actually apply for this grant the third time. We spent that money up front, we've got reimbursed for that, but because we did that, we are the only ones that received this grant on general aviation in Michigan, period. The grant's for $1.8 million. Our initial cost of this project was $2.7 million. And this gives you a new terminal, all the new landscaping, parking lots, ramps. We're not ADA compliant anyway out there, and everything's, the building really wasn't built to code when we put it up. It also gives us a new septic system as well, so it's a complete makeover. But when we started this grant 3.5 years ago, our partner, my buddy Larry, he passed away, the Baums. He was going to take care of our share. And since he did pass away, it's our burden. And so what the feds have decided to do, which is kind of unheard of, they see our situation, they're sympathetic to that, so they're willing to work with us. So we downscaled the building, and so we got our costs lower. So instead of the bigger amount that we would have had to pay, now we're going to have to pay about $400,000 of our share. So, but we have to, this is a fast grant, things have to move fast. The bids all have to be done and in by January or June 1st in order to receive the grant. So everybody's working real quick to get this done. So, yeah, that's where we're at. But, so we've kind of all ways out there, and we partnered up with Larry, and we got self-sufficient after 3.5, 4 years with him and I working on that. And so the county and the city haven't paid a dime toward the airport's fund for, I think, 7 or 8 years. It might be 8 years now. At that time, it was $48,000 apiece, pretty close to $90,000 a year between the two. I know if we haven't got this self-sufficient, you'd be paying quite a bit more per year to fund that. So we're probably one of the only airports in the United States that is self-funding, general aviation. So we've done a good job, and we want to keep it that way. So the loan is actually going to be 8 years at $12,500 per county and city. That's what we did last night at the city. So it's going to be an 8-year payoff.
Okay.
But yeah, so.
City of Hastings has approved this already?
Yep, last night.
Okay.
Dave was there, and, yeah. And I know if Larry was standing here right now, he'd be going, yeah, do that, so. So, yeah. So I think we need to pick up the ball and go forward with this.
Okay. Anything else you want to add? Commissioner Smelker?
I think he covered it pretty well.
Commissioner Tennyson?
Well, I'm on that board too with John, and, you know, the fact that there's solvent out there, and we do not have to pay, and the city doesn't have to pay anymore, has been a great relief when it comes to matching those funds. So this is kind of a no-brainer, I think, as far as the investment out there.
Yeah.
And Larry Baum and his wife, Earlene, what they've done to this community, and he took it upon himself to carry the ball out there because he cared so much about it. So between him and Mark, they've done a great job of getting that, so they've got a good fund balance, but they just can't deplete it all.
Yeah.
So that's why they need the help from the county and the city for the other 100,000 apiece, so.
Okay. Other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Getty?
It's probably a bigger question than we have time for today, but could you briefly just explain the benefit to Berry County to having our local airport and the economic development piece that it brings?
We probably, you know, the state does a study every 2 or 3 years on the economic value of an airport. I think the last time we did this, and I don't know if, John, you were on that, I think 6 or 7 years ago, they figured about $3.5 million into this county. You know, you have a lot of businesses that use that airport for their meetings and shipping parts. Since the hospital closed down and they didn't always use it, we're averaging about 1 flight of the medical chopper per day. So without that, I don't know where you'd be going to pick up your patients to do that, so that's very important. We've went from 2009, when I started, we had 17 aircraft there, we now got 100. And so all those people that and they're not, you know, most of them are not from Berry County. And we've pulled them from all over. So they all spend money here, and they, you know, yeah, it brings a lot to this county. It really does. And
Right.
people moving in like to know there's an airport, you know, so, yeah.
I appreciate the explanation because I think a lot of folks don't understand what the value is of having a local airport.
You know, the old adage was it's a bunch of rich people with airplanes, and that's not the truth. You know, they're average people like we are. They don't buy new trucks and they don't go on vacations because they like their airplane. And that's the truth,
Yeah.
you know, so it's a very expensive habit to have, if you call it habit, but yeah, and they're all good people, and they support us, and that's where we're self-sufficient, so you got to thank them for being there.
Thank you.
Commissioner Colton?
This week, I happened to drive up there, and I was kind of walking around the present terminal building.
Yeah.
And so what would the new one be like? Is it going to be bigger, different?
It's going to be about 400 square foot bigger. The new terminal on the outside, if you look at it, doesn't look that bad, but the whole foundation, the whole building was built wrong. First, all the floors are sitting on angle iron that are rotting off, and so it sags, and most of the windows don't work. The old roof we covered up second year I was there, we put a new mansard roof on it because the old roof was rotting off. We elected not to tear ours out, we just kind of fixed it and replaced it because the water was running in the building. You're not ADA compliant, you know, the doors are all wore out, so, you know, we thought about maybe redoing this one, but for the cost that would do and what we're going to invest now, we might as well take their grant and put a brand new one in. So the new one will be in front of the old one or in back of it, and as soon as we're done, because of all the electrician, all the stuff we'd have to do to put it in a trailer, we're just going to wait till we're done, then we'll move in, and then we'll just tear it down. So, yeah.
Okay.
It'd be
Additional
good.
questions? Quickly.
The military also uses the airport, right?
Yeah, all the
In their
time.
trainings and different stuff, because I've seen them out there.
Well, they utilize that airport quite a bit.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Grand Ledge, so
Oh.
helicopters are in there all the time doing their practice, and they'll drop people off and drop dummies down and pick them, that's where they practice, so they have fun, but, yeah. I know when they do it a lot, because I get phone calls.
Interesting.
Especially when they do it at midnight.
Yeah, you know, it's a restaurant out of Battle Creek, and they're huge for training, and they're on a good average day, they'll do 300-400 landings a day we have 4 or 5 airplanes in there, so it's constant. But, yeah, we have some really good flight schools, and a lot of those kids and people that went on and ended up in the Air Force flying helicopters for the military. So, there's a lot of people coming out of here that are making careers out of it. So.
Fantastic. Okay, if there are no additional questions, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Tennyson,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Carlton,
Aye.
Getty,
Aye.
Smelker,
Aye.
Hatfield,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
and Dixon.
Aye. The motion is approved.
And one other thing, that the $10,000 for the IFE, the independent fee, that will be repaid back out of the money that we're accountable for. So if we're for $400,000, that'll come out of the $400,000. We'll get reimbursed for that.
Okay.
So.
Awesome. Congratulations. Can't wait to hear about it. Give us an update when the bids are done and it's in progress.
Okay.
Thank you. Unfinished business, we have none. New business, we have none. County Administrator's Report. Okay, Chairperson's Report. We're just at the start of the meeting cycle. It's Berry Township tonight. I'm hoping to join Mr. Campbell in Johnstown tomorrow night. And then we have Economic Development, as well as Brownfield, Land Bank, and we have our first meeting of the Personnel Committee on Thursday. So it'll be an interesting week. Vice Chairperson's Report.
As you heard, I was at the city council meeting last night. They approved the same resolution, so I think Mark's ready to move ahead. They also approved a series of events for downtown, including Girls' Night Out on May 2nd, and a series of block party dances on June 8th, July 13th, and August 10th. So come on down and party.
What is a block party dance? Is that going to be music, entertainment?
Music, entertainment,
Okay.
dancing.
Do they shut the block right
They'll
off?
just shut Jefferson off,
Half
yeah.
a block off.
Yeah.
It'll be
Dance in the street.
Jefferson, probably.
Jefferson Street,
Yeah.
immediately south of State. And that's in the hospitality zone, so you'll be able to get beverages from the participating restaurants and snacks. And there'll be a band, and bring your partner and come have fun.
There we go. Okay. Vice Commissioner Reports. Commissioner Tennyson.
Like you said, we'll be starting the township cycle. I got Hastings tonight, I'll have Rutland tomorrow night, and then Friday we got a health department meeting, right, Bruce?
Correct.
So.
Okay. Commissioner Campbell.
I attended Maple Grove in Surrey Township. I guess big on their list was how well the extended voting went. They combined townships out there to make it at one precinct, but out of the 3 townships, for those extra days, they were averaging 6 people a day. And a lot of dissatisfaction with the expense and the cost and all that going into that, and hopefully that'll be addressed at the state level and maybe make some changes with that, because it seems like a
waste of money.
Big waste of money for taxpayers.
Yes, I agree. Commissioner Smelker.
I agree with Bruce. I have heard on this too, that the cost per vote was very high on our 9-day of voting. And I would hope that we would let our legislatures know that there is a lot of unhappiness out there about this, but I do know that it was voted in, so I don't know what they can do. I wouldn't mind seeing us send a resolution to the state or something that they should make accommodations for lower populated areas. You know, as I said, it's very few people come in and vote on some days, so that's all I've got to say.
Commissioner Getty.
Commissioner Smelker and I both attended Thornapple Township last night, and again, they had several emergency services employees that they recognized for either one was promoted to lieutenant, several moved one step up, I believe, out of their ranks. I don't pretend to understand all the ranks within the fire department, but an incredible amount of enthusiasm and participation within the fire department. And I was with Thornapple Township for years and haven't seen that level of enthusiasm and commitment to serving. So those are our first responders, and I appreciate their work. Also, Thornapple Township voted to acquire a 2+ acre parcel along, it's adjacent to the trail that they acquired last year, a year and a half ago, for a trailhead and additional access to the Thornapple River, tying to emergency services and the fact that for the last decade, Thornapple Township has been working to acquire a parcel with river access between Middleville and Thornapple so that they could have better access in case of an emergency. And so this spot will help provide that, and it will also be another respite on the trail network, the regional trail network throughout Berry County. So pretty exciting because those land acquisition opportunities don't come by very often, and I'm forever grateful that Thornapple Township trustees recognized that opportunity and took it.
Awesome, thank you. Commissioner Carlton.
This week, been to Castleton Township, Woodland Village, Carlton Township. Village in Asheville will be Thursday. We're going to have more discussion on planning of the community garden, something exciting that's going to be happening in Nashville tomorrow. The Commission on Aging has not had a kind of community senior congregate feeding site or meal site. In quite a few years, there is one in Delton. There is one, they do it in Hastings. They have a congregate meal site, and also in Woodland. Haven't had one in Nashville, and they're going to do a one-time event now to see what's happening. So we already have 50 reservations for tomorrow, and I've just stopped calling people because we're going to go over there and see if they even have 50 chairs.
Where is it?
Yeah, it's over 2 or 3 together, and I'm not sure they have 50 chairs, so I'll have to borrow them from the VFW if they don't have enough.
Wow, fantastic.
That's great.
That's a great response.
Absolutely. Commissioner Doster.
I'm all set.
Thank you. Limited public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Alden Schellenberger, Hastings. I'm sure as you well are aware to the commissioners, or you heard rumblings, or you've seen things, I have a major concern about this last election at each of the townships. I have a copy here from the clerk's office of all the things that went wrong. And I don't understand why the clerk's office or the Board of Canvassers or even the clerks of each of these townships, there isn't a police report done on it because of all the mess-ups. How can you certify an election? That's my concern with all the different things that wasn't met that required them to do, because I know there was a new law change, but still, maybe there needs to be books of policies and procedures, or maybe we need to have better oversight or better training. Something needs to be done because there's nothing they can do. They went ahead and the Board of Canvassers went ahead and did it anyway, approved it, and how can you, and I call this election flawed because it was not accurate. And as you see in the notes from the clerk's office, from the townships, they all had problems and issues. And I think this, at a county-wide, should be disturbing. Because if it happened here in Berry County, what happened in Livingston County, Wayne County, all of the bigger ones, that more than likely probably face the same thing, and when they certify the votes, it isn't the true facts because they couldn't change them. So if we want our elections to change for the better, we need to do something about this. And we need to get after the state or whoever we have to get after for allowing that these be certified the way they are. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Hearing none, I was asked to read, we received some correspondence that this time of the year I often get over 100 emails a day. This one slipped through the cracks, so I'm going to read this under public comment as opposed to correspondence. So this is from Aaron Gross. He does not list his township, but I know he is in Berry County. So, dear Commissioners, I have heard through reliable sources there were multiple issues specifically in Irvin Township in regards to recent election and its integrity. The issues, I am utterly confounded to hear that there was a failure to properly record a seal number, therefore breaking the chain of custody. For all the alleged chain of custody issues touted from the 2020 election, I would think that sealing a ballot box would be preeminent task to ensure the chain of custody. Even more disturbing is the apathy of the sheriff that I have heard about. Apparently, this was brought to the attention of the sheriff by a longstanding member of the community and was summarily dismissed as a victimless crime. Oddly enough, I seem to remember that investigating outside of Berry County at the expense of his taxpayers was legitimate due to the Ledger Law doctrine. I am not implying that there were malfeasance on the part of an election worker. What I'm implying is I think that in the interest of fairness and consistency, I would think that the sheriff would rise to the occasion instead of shrink from the opportunity. This is completely hypocritical to me. I would think the sheriff would instead like to handle this swiftly in order to clear the election worker, maybe put the former investigator on the case. I am certain he can get there in a hurry. Best regards, Aaron Gross. And he also comments, please read this during correspondence at a time that I can't attend this morning due to the fact I work a day shift as well as a majority of the working adults in this county. So that is from Aaron Gross. I apologize for missing that earlier. So, is there additional public comment? Okay. No, we have no other business. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Doster.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Colton, Commissioner Gay,
Nothing.
Commissioner Smelker,
Nothing.
Commissioner Tunison.
Well, you probably figure I got something to say, right? Getting back to the election, I want to thank everybody who supported 911. Vital thing to Berry County. I know there's a lot of people who were concerned about taxes being raised, but in the end, people realized how vital it is to this community, and the other two renewals that will be coming up is Commission on Aging and also Transit. So they're all vital to Berry County. And when we talk about an airport, we talk about other services that we provide here that we take for granted because we drive every place we need to go. But there's a lot of people that need that transit to get to doctor's appointments, to get to kids to get off the bus that can't get it ride home. It's vital that we support these, and I appreciate the people of this county for doing that. So, thank you.
Commissioner Campbell.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Hatfield.
Nothing.
Okay, just as a note for commissioners, I think you got the email. The legislative conference in Lansing starts on Monday, April 29th, and goes through Wednesday, May 1st. Typically, we have been attending on Tuesday, which is the full day, because it kind of starts in the afternoon and on Monday winds down on Wednesday, so Tuesday's a full day of activities. If you haven't been to the legislative conference, it's worth attending. There's a lot of information and updates on there. So Tuesday, April 30th, that's a full day. Pam in the administrator's office will need to know by the end of the month if you plan on attending for that day or days. So I echo the sentiments on early voting. At one point, I think, in Rutland, Hope, and another township were combined, and I think they were maybe in the high 90s, and I think they'd calculated it to be somewhere paying double time on Saturdays and Sundays for workers. I think they were over $200 a voter. So very expensive to run early voting, and I think it would be great if smaller counties could cut that back to 3 days or 4 days or whatever the number is. But maybe it's needed in bigger cities. It just wasn't needed here. And also, I was going to say the same thing. I attended the open house at 911. They're doing a fantastic job with their training, with their setup, so I'm happy to see that the community supports them, and we'll continue to need their support for the Commission on Aging and the transit millages as well, because all those things make for a great community. So, thank you for attending this morning. Be safe, enjoy the weather. I understand it's not going to last long, that we're going to be back to cool weather again, so have a great day.
It's Michigan, they change every day.
Michigan.